We're awaiting the start of the Acton-Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting for February 25. The meeting is going to start in about 15 minutes. There's already about 30 participants, which is a lot for a regular board meeting. It could be because on the agenda there's some personnel action reports on some possible reduction of staff and eliminating some positions of certificated employees and classified employees. And that could be the reason why it is such a packed Zoom this evening, packed for this type of meeting anyways. So we'll wait and see how many public comments there are and what the board has to say. And it also looks like they're going to talk a little bit about the SARC reports, which is the basically they are the report cards of each site, each school site in the district. And it's called a SARC report, and it's very detailed, many pages long, and it's usually done by several staff members, teachers, principals, get together, and they have to do this SARC report. And it looks like they're going to report on that as well. And those are the big things this evening. The meeting is going to be beginning in a couple of minutes, and that number has doubled now to 60 participants. So we'll see how many of the participants are going to be speaking tonight, or if they're just here to Zoom in.
Right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and read the civility statement.
Cannot do this alone. In our LCOP, it also states AAD USD recognizes the importance of focusing on the child to improve student education outcomes. The district will improve counseling services to students at all sites in 2019-20 through increased articulation and collaboration between district counseling staff and community resources, ongoing training for staff, and schedules that ensure availability of counselors to address students' socio-emotional college career needs. Our LCAP continues to say, counseling services are intended to assist students in overcoming behavioral and emotional barriers to learning, attendance, school completion, and preparation for college and career. The actions are principally directed toward SED, EL, and FY students based on research that shows increased counseling services improve educational outcomes for students who experience issues related to sociocultural barriers, poverty, or unavailable parents. One counselor cannot do this alone. Mental health has been a focus within our district and discussions of growth mindset and mindfulness. The AAD USD Gold Standard number 1 and number 4 specifically address student achievement and student safety and connectedness. Gold Standard number 1 states, student academic, behavioral, and socio-emotional success is crucial in order to graduate from our schools ready to be purposeful leaders in college, career, and life. Our gold standard also calls for our district to provide coherent, multi-tiered systems of support focused on academic, behavioral, and socio-emotional success for all students, including English, students with disabilities, socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Gold standard number 4 states, a safe and respectful environment is essential to student success. We foster a career that promotes the emotional health, safety, and well-being of students, staff, and parents. one counselor cannot do this alone. This year, during our worldwide pandemic, it impacted.
There's so many avenues to explore before we jump right into laying off our employees that have a direct relationship with our students.
Mental health has been a
I've
focus
seen the
within
district offering early retirement incentives, but benefits of those have not been taken into consideration because the district doesn't know which employees will take advantage of that. Couldn't that savings offset the need for layoffs? The district did not bother approaching the union to try to negotiate things like voluntary
our
furloughs,
district and discussions
job
of growth
sharing,
mindset,
freezing the step and range increases, from which any savings could be retained within the classified bargaining unit to prevent layoffs and other reduction in hours. Did the district
Number four,
office explore
specifically address-
restructuring the district office administration staff? Not too long ago, we had more support staff and more students with about half of our district office
student
staff.
achievement.
With each new superintendent that we hire, there's an increase in our district office staff and or an increase in their pay rate. We need to remember that this is Acton Aguadulce Unified School District. The problem with the pattern I see is that we hire people
and
from
FY
outside our
students.
area and they bring with them their experience and expectations of their larger district instead of embracing our small district. In a smaller district, our job
Services
duties
can
need
improve
to be
educational
combined.
outcomes for students.
Instance,
who makes
our assistant superintendent of
Experience
human
issues related-
resources, human resources administrative assistant, and our executive assistant to the superintendent duties were all completed by one person
sociocultural
whose
barriers.
salary was
poverty
not
are
over
unbearable.
$100,000 a year. She
Okay.
completed her duties well with more staff and more students to be accountable for. Those positions are now costing the district
One
over
counselor
double
not-
just in salary alone, not even factoring in the
is
district paid
crucial
benefits.
in order to grab.
Another example is our business services position. Not long ago, the person in that position held the title of Director of Business
Not to this
Services
alone.
and received a salary
Mental
of less
health
than
has-
$100,000 a year and did not hire
Educate from our
outside
school.
contractors.
Before we get to that agenda. When we get to items, they're complicated, there's a lot involved with making reductions, there's a lot of legalistic compliance that goes into it, and it's not as straightforward as it may appear from the outside. I understand that it's personal, particularly to those being off. I absolutely value our employees, and this was a very difficult undertaking to balance our budget. One thing I won't let happen is let this district go into a negative certification. We're still in a deficit spending structure pattern, and we may even need to make further reductions next year. We won't know until we hear the governors may revise and we're able to take another look at our budget. I won't have an outsider come to this district and take over all the decisions for the Board of Education and myself. And that's what would happen if we have a negative certified budget. It would be state receivership, and that would not be direction that I would want to take this district in. It's able to go through reductions. I've been through them before in the years of 2010, 11, 12, and 13, when I went through the very difficult financial times in the state of California. My wife has been on the receiving end of receiving advice. She's lost her job before. I do understand the pain of it. We had to submit a plan to Los Angeles County to demonstrate how we plan on maintaining a positive reserve in our 3-year projection. Most of you understand that salaries are the largest part of the district's operating budget. I've spoken with several parents and staff members throughout the week, but particularly in the past 24 hours. I truly appreciate those of you that have approached me, and it's been difficult dialogue and challenging and thought-provoking, but I appreciate the fact that you came in to see me, or we spoke on the phone and shared your thoughts. Those thoughts have not gone on deaf ears. I hear you. I still plan on making the recommendation to the board this evening. The main reason is because that is the fiscal sovereignty plan that we're both accountable to by the County of Los Angeles. We had to submit a plan to show how we were going to remain fiscally solvent months ago. Some of the things that you've given me thought to consider, particularly Cole Salcedo, I truly appreciate your comments. I think you know that you are preaching to the choir when you're talking about growth mindset, mindfulness, and the wellness of our students, which is my first priority. So this is the plan at this time with the given circumstances. And I want to just be clear that I've heard what you shared. I'll continue the discussion with the board, and we will move forward. We'll get through this. Now to the COVID report, and let you know there have been some changes. The first thing is the current case rate is 12.3 thousand population in LA County. A year ago, just to give you an example of how much and how things can change due to politics, people would not be able to return until at least it was 7 per 100,000. Return in grades 7 through 12, open up athletics, potentially. And now, all of a sudden, we could be under 25 per 100,000, which is 4 times that initial rate that they talked about, far above the zone, which is more than 7 per 100,000, more than 6% test positivity rate. Now you can be far over that, and they're saying it's okay to go back, which I understand. I understand that piece, and we're going to work with that, and we are working towards reopening more than we already have. We've reopened our schools, and we're going to continue to pursue that. I'm just making the point that this landscape continually changes with conflicting agencies and conflicting information. It's a very challenging landscape to work through. One thing that's added to the equation as of late, because I get a lot of questions about, well, we saw a headline, we read the newspaper, and schools can reopen now. So why aren't we reopening? And why haven't the teachers and the classified association, why hasn't all the work already been done so that now that we're granted the okay to reopen, we could just reopen schools right now? Part of the reason is, for example, vaccinations. That's new information. Just in the last 24 hours, the availability of vaccination in the Antelope Valley is going to be granted through an allotment system. That's brand new information. The allotment that we're going to receive is 150 a week. 90% of that allotment, which is 135, is to go towards students that we authorize in our charter organizations. That leaves us with 15 per week. But you have to get an initial shot, then you have to wait 3 weeks to get your second booster, and then you have to, I think it's a week after that. So at 15 per week, even identifying those critical frontline employees, that would take quite a time. So I would encourage employees who are interested in getting their vaccination to explore all options on March 1st when it's open to the phase Tier 1B. Indicators are part of that phase-in. But we will take advantage of this allotment system. We have with the Antelope Valley Hospital, and we will be sure to have a district representative on our time, on our day, to ensure that we can verify who is our district employees so that they may get vaccinated. Teachers feel very different, and employees feel very different about the safety. Some people don't want a vaccination at all. Some people don't come back into a classroom until they are vaccinated. Some people are ready to come back today. So we have to work with our associations to come up with a negotiation that works for everybody. For each individual facility in Acton and Aadusd that is reopening, we posted that on our district website, sent that to Los Angeles County Department of Public Review. The thing we have to do is negotiate the impacts of the safety plan with the associations on any aspect of that plan that impacts the terms and conditions of employment. And I do look forward to working with our associations and their support, which is critical to reopen our schools. To Kent Fairbank's statement, I appreciate his comments, and we are looking at reopening potentially for our seniors. We have a signed MOU. I'll be working with the Board of Education for approval. It's got 5 categories here in order of importance to ensure that our most critical group of students in terms of receiving their diploma are able to do so. So those at risk of credits, those at risk of not passing classes in their second semester are prioritized in order to get the support and attention they need for getting graduate. And we will give that same support to every class as it comes through to assist them regardless of the situation. We also are working currently on an MOU for grades K through 6. I expect the bargaining members of the table. I'm not going to share the status of where they're at this time. I appreciate the efforts of all that are at the table to that end. A brief update on athletics. We are working with our athletic director, Mr. Broadway, our high school principal, to see what their recommendations are. It was just announced that you may pursue athletics and even compete in athletics, and the county just this morning verified that. It was only 24 hours ago that the county's information contradicted the state information which was recently published. So I'm glad that they're both on the same page now, and that we have the ability to determine what we need to do for our next steps in terms of things like transportation, spectators, eligibility, so that we can properly bring back our students and support them in terms of athletics. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the Superintendent Student Advisory Council. I'm happy to report to the board that I met with 4 students from Meadowlark, Josephine Butler from Miss Shu's class, Kylie Finn from Miss Trevelyan's and Miss Huff's class, Amber Moore in 3rd grade as well from the same class, and Raul Pacheco Vera with the 2nd grader with Mrs. Cox's class. These younger students were absolutely insightful and thoughtful as I asked them how they're coping with distance learning, how they're doing with their social emotional needs, how they're doing with their academic needs, what can we do to better support them. And I asked the same questions of the high district group, Brandon Vasquez, Lena Fox, Kaden Bowden, and Alexis Van Ornum. And then at the high school level, Samantha Brooks, a freshman, Myra Schneider, a sophomore, Jocelyn Moore, a junior, and Kemp Fairbanks, a senior. They all hold offices for their particular classes. We're going to meet again in 3 to 4 weeks. I truly appreciate the input from all of these students. They shared some very insightful thoughts and helped me to get a better understanding of exactly how our primary clientele are feeling during this time, and that is our students. Just as a reminder for the board, we do have a board workshop March 6th from 8:30 to 1:30. We'll be discussing board governance, kind of a board governance refresher, if you will. And then the charter business. We're going to talk about charter business at that time as well, because of so much changing landscape with regard to the charters that authorize it. And the last piece I have is part of the Gold Center report, is a video from Meadowlark School this evening.
Love from the very happy Meadowlarks.
Watching the finances and making sure that we need to take the corrections we need to take, as painful as they may be. The folks who are affected have helped me raise my children, and they're very important to me, as well as to the many folks who emailed me as well. I also want to note that the early retirement thing that we voted on last meeting, I hope that helps us not to be in this kind of situation again next year. That's a very forward-looking thing that the administration and the board is doing to try to blunt having to do this again next year. And I hope that it is it's successful, because everybody wins in a situation like that. Lastly, the reason we are here is after 2013, when we made those terrible adjustments that we had to make. Since then, our enrollment has continued to decline. Since then, because the community is just not producing that many children, or a mature community, and our enrollment's declined since then. And yet, Ms. Salcedo's right. In the interim, we were able to actually, since then, increase counseling. We know how important it is. But the reason we were able to do that, even as enrollment was declining, was because of our other local revenue. That is, the fact that our charters were growing so fast that we were collecting more than we spent. We invested that back in programming. We can't do that anymore. That's what just. But be advised, those positions never would have been able to be created in the first place, had that money in there in the first place. And so what we're seeing here is a tough adjustment to getting in line with normal and typical funding. A district that's just not generating that many children. A district with declining enrollment. That's why we're here. We were able to forsake that, and in fact grow programming since about 2014, and unfortunately, we can't do it that way anymore. And so we've got to live within our budgets and our means, and I know that it's painful. And I just want you, anyone who wrote me an email, not to have to wait till later to hear me know that I've heard you. And thank you.
Good evening, Chad Wadsworth here. Today was an interesting day. Got a lot of calls, a lot of text messages, a lot of emails, and I want everybody to know that I hear your concerns. I feel your concerns, and I'm trying to help find a solution to your concern. To Ms. Salcedo's point, I'm concerned about the fact that we are cutting these accounts we are. I don't want to see a situation again where we have another kid commit suicide because he didn't have a person to talk to, or a kid that may be having tough times at home, has no one to go to, and that's stuff addressed. I don't want to see one person be responsible for 900 students. To the Ms. T and the Shiloh comments that I've gotten over and over and over again, both are exceptional people. Both bring a lot to the plate within our district. I really hope that our district has exhausted any and all opportunities with possibility of these people. The fact that their hours that they work are so low that it's peanuts in comparison to what other spending we could be wasting. I'll be short for now. I mean, there was a lot of information that came today. Being a kid on the blog, I was trying to catch up. I want you guys to know that I'm listening and I'm hearing you. I don't want any kind of manner. I read all the text, I read all the emails, and I'm here. Keep sending them if it makes you feel better. And know that I will do my best to try to help the problem. But it's a tough decision. We have to make some tough decisions. We have to right the ship at some point in time. Unless we make cuts. Are we making the right cuts? I don't know. We need to look at that. Maybe we need to make sure we're making the right cuts. We have to take action somewhere along this path, or we're just going to fall off into the abyss, and there's going to be no coming back to it. So to the parents out there that they hear the news reports, oh, school's going to open back up, and why aren't our kids back in school? Honestly, it's not that easy. It's not just easy as Mr. King walking the gates and everybody go back to the classroom. There's a lot of red tape behind the scenes that the district is dealing with day in and day out, and it changes day in and day out. It's not consistent. So trust me, everybody on this board, everybody in this district office, they want the kids back in the classroom. They want them safe in the classroom, and they want our teachers back in the classroom safe. That's a whole other topic of this and negotiation is getting the teachers to feel comfortable to get back in the classroom. That's being worked on. But you folks have to understand it's going to take a little time. It is not as quick as snapping our fingers, opening the door, and everybody coming back in. That being said, I'll pass it on to the next person.
Can we move Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. My colleagues on the board have already commented on things that are of utmost importance and things that we have to do, but each of us has a perspective, and my perspective is that we're dealing with three hardships. First, we're dealing with the pandemic that threatens our health of our staff, students, and our community, so that hurt us. We're in declining enrollment, and we're catching up with decisions from past that has changed our revenue stream. And like Mr. King stated, that we're obligated to provide a positive certification moving forward, and we always have to look 3 years out. We can't just go for the end of this next school year, and so there's a lot of decisions that are being made on the financial basis. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. It's not easy on anybody. And the emails that I've received regarding Ms. T and Shiloh, I know them both. I know the positive impact they have on our students and in the community when we can get back to school. And I, for one, for sure, and I know that my colleagues are there, that if and when we get some assistance from our state with budget, when we don't know where that's coming from, that we can revitalize programs, revitalize staffing, that these individuals will be first in line to say, hey, we finally got some funding. But it's all very challenging and difficult, and it's not easy. It's one of those things that everybody wants to avoid. We don't want to do that, but with declining enrollment and other issues that we don't control, we have to deal with what's being dealt to us. It's very difficult and very challenging. So again, I hear your emails. I mean, I listen to your emails. I read them. I think about them. I interact with staff, particularly Superintendent King, about concerns that we have, things I hear, because I live in the community along with the rest of my board colleagues. And we all are concerned about getting our students back into class safely as soon as possible. And as we go forward, I know that we have the agreement. We were all pushing for it. I'm glad that our seniors are going to be getting back in, hopefully the last couple of months of this school year, in a hybrid standing, whatever we can do to get them back, so that when they make their decisions moving forward, that they're going to be leaving our district prepared to continue their education, be a positive member in the community, go to find jobs, whatever their chosen path is, and they're going to do that in a good sense of health. It's going to be very challenging. It's going to be very difficult, but we'll have a lot of discussions. We'll have a lot of debate going on about when we do and how we do, and the staff is working hard to do this. And trust me, the staff is getting peppered with some positive questions and some hard questions about why, and we're asking for the justification for these, knowing that we have to move forward 3 years out. That's all I have right now. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So, Michael, as well, we are reading your emails, and we are, me personally, I'm asking the staff to reach out and have a personal phone call if they're able to do that. And we're answering your questions, and we are listening to your comments. And what do you need? Although our TK preschool or K4 SDC has returned on February 8th, I'm looking forward to having many of our students return. So we are working on our reopening plan and we're working with our labor partners, our health department, the stakeholders to make sure we're ready to reopen. So our reopening plan includes the best conditions possible to maximize student learning in a happy and safe environment. And I'm happy to hear what the positive note tonight is that we're looking forward to having some of our seniors return, and I'm hoping that we'll continue with that high school that we're proud of in our community. And I hope that we can probably celebrate all of our seniors at the end of the school year. I am very aware that the district has excellent employees, and that we cannot run our district without classified as well as certificated staff. And tonight we have to make some hard decisions. We're trying to make the best of our budget while having the least disruption at the classroom level. And it's not an easy decision to make. We care deeply for all of our staff and our teachers, and we want the best for our students. So all of our employees are important and valued, and this is our policy. We will continue. I can promise you that I don't speak just for myself. I speak for this board and our district office, that we will continue to work the best that we can to make these options work for all of us. And even though we have to make some hard decisions tonight, we're going to continue to go to the table and do the best time for our students and our community and our employees. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we go on to the consent agenda. So does, we're going to, I'm going to ask that I can get approve the consent agenda for items 8A through 8E as submitted. Okay, someone move this in.
And Jorgensen move.
Can I get a second?
Chad Wands with second.
Thank you, Mr. Wadsworth. Are there any items that the board would like to pull in comments on? Or Mr. King, is there anything to discuss on the consent agenda?
No, I'll just point out 8D real quick is a contract with Grand Canyon University. There's no fiscal impact to the district. It's associated with the $500 stipend for essentially a master teacher for a 16-week assignment to work with the student teacher. And the contract includes all the liability coverage by the university. Thank you.
Okay, if there isn't any comments, can I call this to question?
Ballsgraf, aye. Fox, aye.
Shadowalter, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0. Thank you. Next, going to move to item DA, a master contract with the Academy for Advancement of Children with Autism. Can we get someone to extend, please?
So,
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Mr. King, are there any comments?
I'd just like to comment that I'm recommending the approval of this contract with the non-public school, the Academy for Advancement of Children with Autism. This contract is for one of our students that will be attending this non-public school, and staff and the guardians feel that this is being will best be met.
Is there any board members have any questions or comments? We'll call the question.
Ballsgraf, aye. Fox, aye.
Shadowalter, aye.
Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0. Thank you. We have 10B, draft the student accountability report card, the SARC report at Meadowlark Elementary School. Can I get someone to move this in?
So,
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Mr. King, are there any comments?
I'm going to do an overview for the board, and then I'm going to ask each one of our principals just to make a brief comment on some of the things they'd like to point out on their individual school accountability report card. The school accountability report card dates back to 1988, the requirement does. State law requires schools receiving the state funding to prepare and distribute the SARC. And it's really for the public. It really allows parents and families to look at and compare school districts and look at demographic data. It allows them to compare that data, evaluate it, compare schools. It includes school safety information, ethnic information, school completion rates, class sizes, teacher and staff information, curriculum and instruction descriptions, and it just allows the public to have an overview of that particular school. It says draft by each of them. However, it's timely that these get approved tonight. So if there were anything that we need to amend, then I'll add that amendment as needed. With that, I will turn 10B over to Ms. Saavedra, the principal of Meadowlark Elementary School.
Good evening, President Jensen and members of the board, Vice President Jorgensen, Mr. Wadsworth, Mr. Fox, Mr. Fallsgraf, Superintendent King, and meeting attendees. My name is Paula Saavedra, and I am the principal of Meadowlark School, and it is my pleasure to be here with you this evening. Tonight, I'll be sharing with you some information from the Meadowlark School Accountability Report Card. Meadowlark is an amazing school with talented and dedicated teachers and staff and highly involved parents and community members. Our active School of Music organization and PTO, our parent-teacher organization, provide enriching activities for our students, which include field trips, care packages, and weekly music instruction. Our teachers use classroom data to determine and provide needed interventions for students, which are offered daily and weekly. Our school site council, leadership team, and positive behavior intervention systems, or PBIS teams, work to create school-wide goals and systems that support students' academic and socio-emotional growth and increase parental involvement at our school site. One thing I'd like to highlight is our class size at Meadowlark. Because of our small class sizes, teachers and assistants are able to provide more individualized attention to our students, which supports positive learning and academic growth. In preschool through second grade, our class sizes range from a low of 7 to a high of 25, and in third and fourth grades, our class size ranges from 22 to 28. Another thing I'd like to highlight is Meadowlark's extremely low rate of suspensions and expulsions annually. We are a PBIS school and work to integrate positive behavior intervention systems into all that we do. This is reflected in the positive sense of community that can be felt when at Meadowlark, along with excellent student behavior. In the 1920 school year, while the state had a 2.5% suspension rate and a 0.1% expulsion rate, Meadowlark had a 0% rate in each area. I credit the Meadowlark staff and families with this excellence. They all work diligently to create a positive environment for students where expectations are explicitly taught and rewarded. As I mentioned previously, Meadowlark is an amazing school with a talented staff and supportive parents and community. I have been very fortunate to be part of such a wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's not any comments or questions, anyone have anything? Okay, let's call for the vote.
Paulsgraf, aye. Fox, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye, 5-0. Thank you. Next, we have 10C, the student attendance report card, the smart report for High Desert. Can I get someone to move this in?
Fox, Chadwell, seconds.
Mr. King.
Okay, Mr. Cubell, if you're here, we'd like to hear from you. Just some highlights of.
Great. Good evening, board and community. It's a pleasure to be here. This is Dave Keeble. I'm the principal at High Desert. And I'm pleased to share some highlights from this year's High Desert SARC report. And due to the pandemic and distance learning, many of our programs are on hold, however, and I just did want to point out our CAST data because we don't have the assessments is 2 years old in the report. At High Desert, we encourage students to excel in all areas of our curriculum. Our school motto, choosing to soar towards excellence, reflects the commitment of faculty to help students reach their goals. High Desert School is a safe place where we recognize the importance of physical, social, and emotional intellectual safety. Our mission is to dedicate ourselves to providing a safe, flexible, positive, and nurturing learning environment in which all of our members have the opportunity to excel, experience a sense of belonging and personal growth toward the development of academic excellence. The school strives to offer a balance to its academic program through electives and student activities. Our students enjoy the benefits of HDS TV, our daily news show. Our ASB, our student body, creates student activities. Even in this pandemic year, they organized a recent Valentine's drive-through cookie making kits for our families. Our electives include video production, Google Apps, creative writing, robotics, intro to economics, in addition to ASB and yearbook. Post-pandemic, we plan to offer after-school enrichment, which includes performing arts program, handbells, and science Olympiad. The safety of our students is a priority at High Desert School and is ensured through a well-organized program of campus supervision before school, at nutritional break, during lunch, and after school. The campus is secure, and visitors are required to sign in at the school office and wear official badges when they come on campus. Teachers also maintain school-wide procedures with their classrooms which limit the opportunities for inappropriate and unsafe behavior. The school has a comprehensive emergency plan, which is outlined in the school's disaster preparedness handbook. Emergency drills are held 4 times a year, and students practice a school bus evacuation each year. Each classroom has an emergency backpack, which contains emergency supplies. Emergency equipment is stored in several locations on campus. Staff practices search and rescue techniques in our annual Great California Shakeout emergency drill. And our school safety plan is updated annually. Finally, High Desert staff, students, and community take pride in keeping High Desert School a safe, clean, and peaceful campus. Facilities are cleaned throughout the day and night, and the facilities receive ongoing upgrades, including new flooring in 2 classrooms over the last summer, and is looking forward to new solar panels to increase shade for students. Repairs are completed through a work order system. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Let's call it to question.
Paulsgraf, aye. Fox, aye. Chadwell, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly, aye, that's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Next, we have 10B, the draft of the student council report, the SARC, that's high school. Can I get someone to move this in?
Tim Jorgensen, move.
Thank you. Mr. King.
Mr. Brockway, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, board. As my colleagues at Meadowlark and High Desert
thanks,
mentioned
we have to-
some great things at their sites, I wanted to share some positive things found in our SARC at Vasquez. One of the major highlights I want to point out in my message is the opportunities students typically have through culinary class, our video production, MTV, ASB, activities and clubs on campus, as well as the athletics program. These are hugely successful due to the staff that we have that oftentimes pull triple duty as a teacher or counselor, advisor, and coach. The staff is the heart of Vasquez.
Our health of our staff.
Additionally, an exceptional addition to Vasquez is our active PTSO.
So that
having worked in multiple high schools, this type of parent involvement is very rare. I want to thank the PTSO and all active Vasquez parents for all of their support.
It has changed our
On page 4, we see information about class size.
And like Mr.
And as my colleagues mentioned,
King stated,
it as an amazing opportunity for our students to benefit from such class sizes. While we don't see the enrollment for the 2017-2018 school year on our SARC, it was approximately 372 students, which is about 15 students more than last year's enrollment of 358 students. The amazing thing here
decisions that are being made on the
is
financial basis.
in 2017 and 2018, we had class sizes of approximately 14 students across the subject areas, as we can see on our SARC. Whereas our student population dropped, and our class sizes increased by almost 50% in most of the subject areas, but still under 25 in most cases. I say this because it is still well below what is typical in high school classrooms, and it has been possible due to the hard work of our counseling staff, namely Ms. Salcedo, who has worked to creatively maintain low class sizes while addressing declining enrollment and staff changes. The 2019-2020 data is one piece of the puzzle, and I wasn't here for the discussions on master schedule for that year. But I imagine next year's SARC and the following year will see the upward trend as her and I have continued to find creative solutions for this school year and next year's preliminary schedule. The final thing I would like to point out is the graduation rate found on page 9. As you can see, we have an extremely high graduation rate at Vasquez. This could not occur without the hard work by all teachers to help students meet graduation requirements, as well as classified staff that encourage our students. Additionally, this is reflective of the hard work by counselors nagging, for lack of a better word, our credit deficient students, as well as their Apex credit recovery teachers to meet their credit requirements. Thank you to all my staff, past and present, and thank you, school board, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brockway.
Finalized program.
Any discussion or comments? Call for the vote.
Paulsgraf, aye. Fox, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0 vote. Next, we have 11A, our personnel action report.
Individuals will be.
Can I get someone to move this in, please?
Fox, so moved. Walker, second.
Mr. King.
First in line to be.
No comments on the part of this evening.
Say, hey, we finally.
Does the board have any questions or comments?
They got some funding.
Okay, let's move this in.
But
Let's call for the vote.
it's all very checked.
Is there action? No, it's, sorry. It's
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
It's not easy.
Okay, thank you.
It's one of those.
Thank you, Mr. Paulsgraf. Thank you. 11B, a resolution for 20-21-.11, elimination of particular kinds of service performed by certificated employees.
And other issues we don't control, we have to deal with being dealt to us.
Mike Fox, so moved.
It's very difficult and very challenging.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So again,
Mr. King.
and I hear your emails, I mean, I listen to your emails, I read them, I think about them. I interact with staff, particularly the Superintendent King, about my board colleagues, and we all are concerned about getting our students back in the class safely as soon as we were all pushing for it. And our students are going to be getting back in.
The charter plan.
Things I hear, because I live in the community alone with the rest of my board colleagues.
These comments are going to,
And
but
But then there's been a change in the consistency
Going on about
approach of this
when we do
board.
and how we do.
When people became jobs, people are moving, people are any number of things. That in and of itself is a serious situation. But you have the people, agencies looking to recover excess charter revenue back.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Couple that with an aid student aid. You have to remember that this budget has been supplemented, or whatever word you want to use. I used to say the cheese line, but I would put it to the tune of 30%. So this district budget has been subsidized by 30%. That is going away. So what does it have to do with the names of the people who behind this list? It's not appropriate for this board, knowing that this board has control over one employee, and that's him sitting right over there. And I have 20% control. So for me to start running around advocating for one employee over another, grossly inappropriate. It robs accountability and practices. The employees' unions bargain for things and stuff, and I just don't go around and because of what I feel about one another, that I'm going to go out and advocate for them or call them out in a meeting. That's not going to happen for me. To be fair about this, when people come into this office and want to go to work here, they come in and they say, I have an off-day's work, and in exchange for that, I expect some measure of safety. Suddenly somebody's going to come in and take the food off my kid's fork because somebody made a decision 12 years ago that set off this, and now all of a sudden my whole family is devastated. So I don't lose track of this at all. But the agencies that tell us what to do, the time has come in the day when we want this fiscal plan. That plan involves a number of placeholders, is what I call this. We don't know what the end district budget is going to be. We don't know what people are going to come forward to reach some kind of, and it's my expectation, here's my expectation when it comes to the administration of this district. Assuming when these positions come up with someone who has enough organizational knowledge, understanding of the institution and how it works, and where the efficiencies are, where customer service is, and who's good at what, and whose personality sucks, but they're great with numbers. I expect that somebody with enough organizational knowledge would go on and make an assessment as to what type of reductions could be made with the focus on individuals, or who's making the money or has benefits that we think are offensive, or whatever our trip is today, but has made this assessment in a way that impacts children, the interests of children in classrooms the least, with also an understanding that this is a dive, and in order to come out of dive, you have to keep
Wadsworth, Mr. Fox,
and attract others in. And I'm
Metal
making
Park
the
is an amazing
assumption that the person who did this had enough
school with
institutional
talented
knowledge to understand.
and provide teaching activities for our students.
To Tim and Kelly, just to hear their side of it, their opinions.
Ms. Ferguson.
As everyone, as my prior colleague comments have alluded to, is I liken it to, we've been riding good on getting everybody, we had guaranteed overtime income for a number of years, and all of a sudden comes in and says, okay, the overtime's gone, you're just getting your regular. And on top of that, you're only going to work 30 hours a week instead of 40. We would constantly have to keep adjusting how we're going to operate to stay solvent. So our revenue stream has been significantly interrupted. On top of that, we have ADA reduction, losing students. Then we have a pandemic that we hope that's on the rebound, but we really don't know. And we haven't got a state budget yet. So there's all these financial things coming at us, and yet we still have to maintain a positive certification. My biggest concern is about the students. I get everybody's busy. It's going to require people to be busier to meet the needs of our students, and that's one of my primary concerns. I'm concerned, as Chad does, with I get that we have to get 7.5 FTE. That's part of the thing that we understood that will get us in that process so that we revisit this next year, depending, or hopefully we won't be having them have, it won't be as impacting as this initial one is. I get there's other certificated FTEs within the system that maybe I was anticipating, hoping that there might be an adjustment for one of the counselors for one of the other FTEs from a certificated pool. But I'm trusting in the administration leadership of our superintendent. He's the person who's accountable. He's researched his staff and is assuring us that he's meeting the needs of our students as best as can be contemplated, pending some epiphany coming out of the state or from some federal funding, or students move back after the pandemic recovers. I don't know. It's going to be profoundly difficult. It's not one that I'm willing to do. I know I'm going to have a lot of angst over this, but it's a decision we have to make to move forward in this difficult time.
Thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. I did make some comments earlier. This is very, very painful. You never really have enough, you never have too many people to help you with your students, especially when we have kids coming back with a lot of sort of unknowns of what they might go through this pandemic. I just want to sort of remind everyone that when we talk about eliminating particular kinds of service, we're not talking about, although the people hold those positions, looking at this Larry did not talk about performance. So I understand that's easier said than done when it's someone's family and livelihood. We are not taking this lightly. Very difficult, and we do care deeply for our employees, and we do care deeply for our students. And I think that's why we're all here this evening, is because we are thinking of our kids and we want them back in school and we want them to be safe and have the best learning environment possible. So if there's no other discussions, we'll have to call for the vote.
Walsgraf, aye. Mike Fox, aye. Chad Wadsworth, no.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's 4-1. Motion carries. Thank you. We have 11C, Resolution 20-21.13, layoff of classified employees. Can I get someone to move this in, please?
So moved. Mike Fox, second.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Mr. King.
My comments earlier on 11B were for both items.
Thank you.
My comments are the same for this as I just made for the others.
Thank you. Mr. Fox.
Nothing to add beyond what's been said.
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
Thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. Do you have anything to
Same
add?
as my prior comments regarding students.
Thank you. And just once again, I understand that all employees are equally valued in education. We talk heavily about teachers, which are definitely important to our classroom, but for all of our employees. So there's no further discussion. We'll call for the vote.
Walsgraf, aye.
Fox, aye. Chad Wadsworth, no.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. Sorry, that's an aye for Tim Jorgensen, so we have a 4-1 motion carries. Thank you. We have 11D, Resolution 20-21.12 in support of expedited vaccination for educators. Can I get someone to move this in, please?
Mike Fox, so moved.
I'll go ahead and second. Thank you. Mr. King, do you have any comments?
No, I spoke about this last time as far as bringing it forward. It's to support the animal. Spoke about both mayors of Lancaster as well as Palmdale supporting this effort, as well as the local school districts in the Antelope Valley. I would just ask the board to support the recommendation for the resolution.
Thank you. Any questions or
This
comments?
is not a mandate that insinuates that employees must be vaccinated.
That's correct.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Madam President, I have a question.
So any other?
If anybody else. Larry, we spoke about this in some context about identifying district employees, and I heard you mention that, but one of the numbers you provided in your, I want to confirm, out of the pool that of available vaccines for our employees, does that include the number? You said something about include the number of our charter authorizations as well?
I just got that online today. What it said was we were given the number of 150 allotment per week, 150 people that get vaccinated. But it also stated that 90% of that 150 would be allocated to the charters. And that would leave us only 15 allotments left for our district employees per week.
I got it.
Yes.
Wait, hold on a second, Mike.
Sorry.
Is that for the charter that I lead that's in our district, or is this all the charters that we have authorized?
It didn't specify, so I'd asked our staff to look into that this afternoon. I don't have the answer.
We're coordinating the available vaccines for charters that Los Angeles, wherever they're at.
We're looking into that. I asked Pearl Zuka and Shay Patterson to investigate that this afternoon. So just like a couple hours ago, not that long ago. So they're going to look into exactly what that means, because the letter that we received did not give any specifics on how that's to be allocated or how which sites to be implemented in terms of the charters that we offer.
Well, my only concern when I heard that is that as a district, we're responsible for our students and our community, Acton Agua Dulce. Now, I have no objection to coordinating with iLead because they're in Agua Dulce, but I have some concerns about get clarification that our employees are going to be pushed aside for employees that are in Los Angeles that have other resources that we don't have in the North County. You and I spoke about this, about getting vaccinations available to our North County residents, and Acton Agua Dulce does not need to be pushed aside by the larger communities of Los Angeles and wherever else these places are located. So I would appreciate that you do that and find out how that affects us.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. So first of all, what we're voting on now is in support of expedited vaccinations for educators in general. With regard to the allotments that you referred to, Mr. King, and the fact that in the letter that said, here's your allotments, 90% of them need to go to the charters that you authorize and their educators. Is that because the approximate student count of our charters versus our own is about 9 to 1? There's about 10,000 charter students, 1,000 of our own.
It could be. They shared with us a formula this morning that they didn't fully explain, but they use a formula based on the case rate for the virus, in addition to the population of that local educational agency. But they didn't share, like, here's what we multiply by the company.
I am curious when you find out just what their mathematics is. If it was something as straightforward as, well, your district got allotted this many vaccines at this rate because when you go to the CDC website, you see 10,000 students, there's about 9,000 charter students, 1,000 of our own, then the logic, at least I could sleep at night with the logic, it makes sense. They're looking at us as a 10,000 person district, here's how many shots you get, and then they're specifying, because 90% of these are charters, make sure they get their fair share. That would, at least, it would be helpful if we could try to understand the motivation. Hopefully it's something as benign as that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, can we call for the vote, please?
Ballsgrove, aye.
Fox, aye.
Chad Watson,
Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. Business Services, 12A, District Comprehensive Safety Plan, second read. Someone move this in, please.
I'll
We're
move
not,
it in.
are we moving this in? Okay, Ken, can I get a second?
Mike Fox.
Thank you. Mr. King?
So, really, 12A, the opportunity to try to read the plan fully a second time, unless the board has questions or needs a clarification. I noticed that really the second read, it says action.
Yeah.
But really it's 12B is the action.
Oh, yes,
So, I don't know if that needs to be amended. I don't know that it does necessarily, but if we can just have for the record that 12A is informational, if the board's comfortable with that, then 12B will be the action.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about that?
No, I'll move in 12B.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead and move in 12B, the District Comprehensive Plan 2021 for approval. Ken has moved it in.
I'll second it.
Mike Fox is a second. Any questions or comments? Let's call the question.
Ballsgraf, aye.
Fox, aye. Shuttle aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0. Motion carries. So, go ahead.
Well, the only other suggestion, Madam President, is that, we have already been thinking the same thing, but that now would be a good time to hear a motion to time for closed session.
Oh, okay, thank you. The board does need to return to closed session this evening.
Okay, you're looking for a motion to return to.
Yes, we have a motion.
Mike Fox will make a motion to return to closed session.
I'll second.
Okay, Ken will second. Let's call for the vote to return to closed session. Do we call for the vote now or after future agenda? Okay, call for the vote.
Ballsgraf, aye.
Fox, aye. Shuttle aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, I guess a 5-0 to go back to closed session.
And it's,
It is, 9:35 p.m.
They have gone into closed session for a second time this evening. And I apologize for the poor quality of the video this evening. There were a lot of issues with echoing and feedback, and not sure if it's a combination of internet issues on my end and the fact that I believe all of the microphones were on at the district office, which coincidentally tonight was the first night many of the board members met in person at the district office rather than Zooming from home. And I think many of them were there with Mr. King in the boardroom. And I believe all of their microphones may have been on at the same time during public comments, because all of the public comments were muffled. And I was receiving text messages that other people were hearing it too, so I don't think it was just on our end here. I believe that all of the public comments and much of the meeting was muffled, and echoes and mic feedback and all kinds of stuff. So I apologize. The video is choppy. There were things that I could not videotape because of the echoes being so bad. So a lot of the agenda items were not very clear.
Is there anything that the board would like on future agenda items?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so calendar. Our next official board meeting is March 6th. That's a special board meeting on Saturday, March 6th. And then we have another board meeting on March 11th and March 25th.
Under future agenda items, maybe then you could announce it. We'd like to request a special board meeting on Tuesday.
Okay. Under future agenda items, we're going to have a special board meeting on Tuesday, March 2nd. Well, is it going to be 6:30?
You will make it the regular time.
Regular time at 6:30?
But it will not include closed.
It will, no,
It'll just be a public session.
just a
So
public
everybody
session.
should know 6:30 is the time.
Yeah, 6:30 is the time. Yeah, there will be no closed session on March 2nd, so that will be posted. Okay, and then for closed session tonight, in closed session, the board unanimously approved a recommendation by Superintendent King in regards to student number 4002397. The vote was 5-0. And with that, can we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Paul's got move.
Fox seconds.
Okay, any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Paul's got aye.
Fox eye. Ted Walter aye.
No, Jensen, I thank you, everyone. The time is 10:09.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks.
And I just want to say that I was not able to video any of the public comments and some of the other agenda items because of the feedback and the echoing. And there is some echoing on some of the things that I videotaped, and you will hear that. I did decide to leave those things in because the echoing wasn't as bad, but because it was constant, I did not videotape the whole meeting. And it's my mistake. There's only one microphone for all of the board members. That could be part of the problem as well. Maybe they need to mute themselves when people are zooming in. I'm not sure what the issues are, but hopefully it'll get resolved for next time. Thank you.